Hello, leaders of the world. Welcome to Spread Love in Organizations, a podcast for purpose-driven healthcare leaders striving to make life better around the world by leading their teams with genuine care, servant leadership, and love. I'm Naji, your host, having the pleasure and honor to have with me today Christi Shaw, Chief Executive Officer of Kite. Christi serves as CEO of Kite, Gilead's cell therapy company. Based in Santa Monica, California, Kite is pursuing the ambitious goal of a cure for cancer with industry-leading pipeline and manufacturing capabilities. In her role, Christi is responsible for all cell therapy operations around the world. Before joining Gilead in 2019, Christi held senior executive positions at Eli Lilly and Novartis. Her leadership has spanned a broad range of therapeutic areas. In 2016, Christi founded the More Moments, More Memories Foundation, which assists patients with cancer and their families. Christi currently serves on the board of directors of the Biotechnology Innovation Organization, Aventur, and the Healthcare Women's Business Association. On a personal note, I had the incredible chance to learn from Christi at many different levels. She's definitely the example of servant-loving, highly successful leadership. Christi, I am so honored to have you with me today.
Oh, and I'm so humbled by your recognition and having me on the podcast, Naji.
First, we would love to learn more about your personal story. From business administration to now leading one of the most innovative companies, improving patients' lives in oncology around the world. What's in between the lines of this inspiring journey?
In between the lines, people talk a lot about making sure that you're living your true north, and I feel so humbled and so much self-satisfaction and reward being every day able to come to work and help people and really help in a way that gives them the potential to live a longer life, having, as our foundation's name is, creating more memories in their life with their loved ones. My story when I was little, I grew up in the Midwest for the most part. Between the ages of 6 and 12, we moved every year to 2 years. So I got to witness other ways of living in Canada, the French-speaking Montreal, Quebec, and then other states in the United States. But, from 0 to 5 and also, from 12 to 22, I was in Iowa. So very strong Midwest roots, which really grew up in the farming area, in area where community is extremely important, family is extremely important. And moving around like that too, as well as, it really makes the family close and really makes you understand when people say home is where the heart is, that it is not just about the physical place where you go, but who the people that you're surrounded with. Having come into the pharmaceutical industry, it was intentional on my part, as I was the first person in my family to go to college, and my father really wanted me to know what I was doing before I went. So I, he was a very strong role model for me. And I really wanted to help people. My mom was very philanthropic. My dad was a businessman, which also intrigued me. And it was really intentional. I said, I want to do something that, takes the skills of business and also, gives help to so many people as possible. And then, fast forward, both in my personal life and in my professional life, that desire and that true north and mission have only gotten stronger over time based on personal circumstances and professional. So for me, between the lines is people are people. I was coached by somebody early on. My job was to be respected, not liked, in my first manager job. And I've never believed that. I was not responsive to that initially, and I'm not now. We spend too many hours at work not to like the people that we're with, not to get the best out of them, and to leverage their strengths for the whole to create better in the world for more people. And so that's been kind of my journey, if you will.
Well, thank you so much, Christi, for sharing it with us. You talk about liking people, so let's go immediately there. Is this your key learning as a leader through your journey? Or what would it be? Like, if you want to pick one key learning you had through your journey?
Yes, I think it goes to when you're at your best, and you can help other people be at their best. And through my journey, I've learned, one hard lesson, which is my dad always taught me not to let success go to my head, but what he didn't teach me that I've learned on my own is not to let failure go to your heart. And so one of the biggest things is knowing that you're in control of your destiny, that this is a journey. And when you're going through very difficult times, know that that's a point in time in your journey. And if you can control it, you can change your destiny, and not to be scared to do that. That whatever lies on the other side uh, can be better, and most likely will be better than where you are now. But at the same time, those moments of times are also so precious that those very small moments that are good, how can you take advantage of those? So an example for me that was really big for me was growing up. I was very close to my family and moving around. Like I said, I was always with my older sister, who's 2 years older, and my parents, and then my younger sister, who was significantly younger than us. And she wasn't born until later in that journey. And so as my life progressed, I started losing family members. My mom died at 51 of breast cancer. My dad died at 67 of a rare infection. And then my sister passed away at age 51 of multiple myeloma. And through that journey, it only strengthened my desire to do more and more critically important work to help more and more patients as possible, not to have to go through that pain. At Kite, our goal at Kite is to focus on the cure. That's our mission. But what we do is we have patients who have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, who are told they have on average 6 months to live, and they're in the last moments of their life. And 50% of those patients are now, to be specific, 43% of those patients at 5 years are still alive. And they're having not only more precious moments with their loved ones are having more precious moments with them. Some of them are having children and grandchildren and are there for remarkable moments. And to know that we're able to give that to people by what we do every day is so very motivating. And it's the love, I would say, that love that we give and the love that we get back. The patients come to us remarkably, the biggest and most powerful ambassadors of just wanting to help spread the word, because so many people who are eligible for cell therapy don't even know it exists, and they're sent to palliative care, sent to hospice, and not even knowing that they have a 50% chance to live. And so what we're trying to do now is really spread the word, because why should only some people have access to this therapy? And we're looking to continue to figure out, how do we get that 43% to a higher number to treat more patients? And how do we actually take this therapy to more types of cancers so that more patients can live? And I'm just so humbled to be leading an organization like this and to be around people that I do like. I am a big believer in leveraging people's strengths. What are they good at? What inspires them, motivates them, and just really triple down on that, because people like to do what they're good at. Really focusing on what people are bad at and what they need to work on. Sure, you need to do that if it's a derailer or if people are doing things terribly wrong. But in general, I feel, that loving spirit of leveraging people's strengths and loving them enough to tell them when they're doing something wrong. I think, that's just how we should be as human beings. I just feel like the more I do that, the more reward comes back to the world.
Wow, Christi. You shared, we feel the passion and the purpose and the passion you have for the people. And it's just impressive what you did with your teams and literally changing people's lives, impacting them positively and changing their lives, right? When I joined oncology, that was one of the pieces, can we have cure? And it's true, even one additional day can mean so much. So thanks for sharing this. And I want to go there. You've done this during moments of crisis. You brought a disruptive way of treating with impressive results for those diseases. And on top of doing this and the complexity of the technology itself and manufacturing and all those challenges that you knew you were facing, you had on top the pandemic. I'd love to hear, your key learning as a leader during those times of challenges, and if there's something that you would definitely keep from those learning after the pandemic, or if there's something that you would definitely change.
Sure. So what I do for a living today is actually an experience that I went through as a caregiver with my sister. So my sister actually had cell therapy back in 2016, and I was her caregiver for a couple of months in Philadelphia at UPenn. We stayed at Cancer Hope Lodge, and I don't know if you know this or your audience knows this, but there's approximately about 40 million people, almost 17% of the United States, who are caregivers to other adults in the US, and 60% of them are also employed on top of that caregiving. And so going through that experience, and now I actually gave up my job. I was in a financial situation where my husband worked, and I was very fortunate. Most people can't do that. But being able to see this therapy front and center and what it takes from a care, that was really my first glimpse of it. I had heard about it. I was at Novartis, working at Novartis when we did the acquisition, but it wasn't launched yet to the marketplace. And my sister got it as a clinical trial patient. Unfortunately, she had the type of cancer it did not work for. And shortly after her death, I was asked to become the leader of KITE, the leading organization in cell therapy. Now I'm on the other side looking at delivering for patients. And then the pandemic hit 6 months after I get here. So if you can imagine a patient, just to give you a story, a patient who's in Europe who has lymphoma, who this is their only hope at survival. Now, all of the flights in the United States are grounded. International flights are grounded because of the pandemic. And we need to figure out how we're going to get these patient cells from our California site back to that patient in Europe. And so going outside of just our company, just outside of healthcare, working with airlines, getting on their top list of medical need, getting the government to allow us to ship and to fly that overseas, and having a plan A with the normal airlines everyone flies, and a plan B with charter flights, and a plan C with private airlines. And we did end up needing in Europe to really charter private jets to actually ship patient cells. And when these cells come in, a lot of people call them, oh, your manufacturing site. I like to call them cell therapy labs, because those patients' little red bag of cells comes into the facility, gets shipped up to the floor where they're re-engineered, and they come back out hoping to give life to that patient. And we actually had, in one instance in Chicago O'Hare Airport, a total of 9 cancellation of flights, one after the other. And we had no way to store these cells, no cold storage in the area. Luckily, the cells got there, but during the pandemic, 100% of patients got their cells returned to them. And it is absolutely remarkable. And in fact, there was a Wall Street Journal article of one of our employees in Europe who used to actually get supplies into war-torn countries. And it was his expertise that actually helped us with the logistics of how we could do that. And he really sprinted into action. And regardless of his title, which wasn't high, he led us into how to solve this problem. And so as I look at that and I think about the pandemic, what I learned is this inclusive leadership, leveraging the strengths of people who know, leveraging the expertise, experiences, strengths, intuition, listening. Nobody had a title. We were on the call twice a week. Who can remove what barrier? What is the problem? From CEO down to the manufacturing cell lab chemist, researcher. We were all on the same level working together. And at times it was daunting. I mean, it was absolutely, you didn't know if they were going to get there. And having that caregiver experience of thinking about that patient as my sister, and needing the urgency that you have to get it there, yet sometimes feeling absolutely helpless that you have no control over it. Sometimes makes you crawl in bed and want to throw the covers over your head, I have to be honest. But in the end, seeing cell therapy now really coming to fruition has been so rewarding. At the American Society of Hematology in December, we had probably the most transformative and legacy leaving event, in that we were able to show that 5 years, patients who were going to die survive, 43% of them. We're able to show it's working in multiple indications. And now we're able to show as well that you can use it sooner. You don't have to wait till the end of the line. But if you can use cell therapy earlier lines of earlier, like second, let's say, instead of third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, you can actually save a lot of hardship going through a lot of different therapies that aren't curative, but only give you a little more time. And so I'm just so excited, as I'm sure you can tell that when I talk to my employees just before the holidays, I said to them, could you imagine going to Christmas this year and think about a loved one that you've lost? Everybody I know has lost someone they love, whether it's a close member, a family friend, or a relative. But imagine them being there at Christmas when you thought you're told that they only had 6 months to live, and here it is a year later, and they're still here, or 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And just the change that has on the family in such a positive and deep meaning way. And obviously for me, it's rewarding, and at the same time, disappointing, unfortunately, that my mom, dad, and sister didn't benefit from that, but so rewarding that hopefully for years and generations to come, others will see this become a chronic illness and not a death sentence.
Wow, and this
So
is
I don't know if I told you my learnings, Naji, but I guess my big learning is love at work is a good thing, and really. This new generation of titles don't matter. I want to be developed. I don't want to be promoted. Somebody told me that the other day. I got 3 promotions, Christy, during COVID. She worked for another company, but I want to be developed, and I'm being developed every day by everybody I work with. And so this collaboration, inclusiveness, and no hierarchy, I think, is really something, the lessons learned from COVID, that we need to reduce the barriers to collaboration so that we can really see what we're trying to do together to have the best outcome possible.
This is so powerful, and I believe in this, as you know, and I think what you're doing is just impressive on why we wake up every morning in this industry, and you're actually touching it even patient by patient. I want you, Christi, to react to a word that I will give you. So I'm going to give you 4 words, and I would love to have the reaction on each one of them. So the first one is leadership.
So the first thing that comes to mind for me in leadership is enabling others. A lot of people think that leadership is about having all of the answers, being the smartest person in the room, telling people what to do. And we've been talking about it for a long time, but unfortunately, I haven't seen it change too much in the C-suite, at least not in our industry. And I think that's a problem for us moving forward. Leadership is enabling the whole organization to move forward as fast as they can by leveraging the great gifts everybody brings to the table. Nobody can know everything. Nobody can experience everything. And that inclusion and diversity that we talk about, the equity that we talk about, all of those things are so important for us to not have labels. You have to be able to lead without labels. You can't just wait to get the title and start leading, or you don't have to have the title to lead. And just knowing that your influence is leadership, whether you're an individual contributor, a manager, or the CEO, leadership is about enabling others and bringing your best self to solve problems.
You mentioned my second word, which is equity.
So equity to me doesn't mean equal. And it's so easy for that to be wrongfully interpreted, because being equal is not always fair, right? There are times when some people deserve more based on the effort given, and I think equity means opportunity. Is everyone equal in their ability to tap into their potential? And that's what that means to me. It's not about everybody paid the same, recognized the same, everybody gets a trophy. It's about everybody having the same opportunity. And people think that everybody has the same opportunity, but as I've, been, I was the ERG leader at Lilly for the African American Employee Resource Group. And I've also been reverse mentored by 2 people in the LGBTQ groups individually at 2 different companies. And I think it really requires us to understand and learn other people's journey to understand if they really have equity. Because from those learnings, I change my behavior. I ask questions differently. When we're talking about succession planning, we don't just talk about the leaders in the room, because if the leaders in the room aren't diverse in their experiences, diverse in their social and their experiences, we need to have people in the room that are making sure that we're not have a lot of unconscious bias, because that exists. And I try to make sure that transparently we call that out. So equity to means equity and opportunity, and ensuring that we all understand and know what that means. Diversity, inclusion, equity, that all 3 of those go together, and you can't do one and think that you're now solving the problem. You can't have diversity and think now you've solved the problem. You can't, you need to have the equity piece and inclusiveness piece with it as well.
So true. And going through the journey of reverse mentoring, as you shared, and also willingness to learn and be curious about the other. And it comes with your beliefs on loving others, right? And liking your teams.
Yes, exactly.
What about CEO?
Oh, that's a really great question. What do I think of when I think of CEO? I don't know, this probably not an appropriate answer, but so far, CEO, the first thing I think of is change. I want the connotation of CEO not to be what people assume. CEO today means to everybody financially driven, profit oriented, and that's not a positive term. And so for me, being a chief executive officer of Kite, I prefer to say I'm a leader. I'm leading the Kite organization, because I think we have a lot to learn and a lot farther to go. I think we're doing some good work by holding CEOs and their boards accountable for ESG, giving back to the community. I know Gilead does a great job of that with the HIV communities and in the communities where we work and where we have sites, and everything to do with clean air, et cetera. But we need to do more of that without being told to do it. We need to bring more love into the C-suite. I think it's very courageous of you, Naji, to actually have the word love in your podcast and to put love in the business. I think it's extremely brave of you, because it can show to a lot of people, it could be perceived as a weakness, when it actually is a huge strength to show vulnerability, to say, here's what I know and here's what I don't know. Here's what we're working on. Here's what we need to be working on. Here's how we're trying to give back to society, not just to the shareholders and profit, and be okay that we're looking at the long term, not a short term quarterly profit. And what are we saying to the analysts on the next call? If you take a long term view, I think that's what makes you successful. If you put people first, if you have high expectations for the outcomes, and the outcomes are focused on what's best and making the world better, and they're thinking long term, I don't see failure in that. I see only winning in that, and I think we could add a lot more love to the C-suite. It's a long answer to say that we don't. When I think of CEO, I think of the lack of love right now as a connotation, which I'd like to change.
What a great honor to hear this from you, Christi. And as a segue, my last word is spread love in organization.
Yeah, I am so lucky every day to go to work, and because we talk about patients' life and death every day, it's so easy for us to be so personal with each other. It's so easy for our organization to get around our mission. I don't have to create a mission and a value statement, and it doesn't take long for people to understand what it means to have a loved one living longer, or for me to know that as an employee, you're working really hard and we care about the patient. But one thing I will tell you I've learned in this role in the last 3 years, Naji, is sometimes we're so focused on saving patients' lives that we forget to focus on the employees that are actually doing it, and showing them that we care about them as much as we care about the patient. the pandemic really put our organization, as it did many, in overdrive. You would think that working from home meant that we were working less hours when everybody was working so many more hours. There was a blur between work and personal, and really burnout occurring. And I think we've seen that in the Great Resignation that's happening and that we're going through now in the world, of people really taking a second look at, am I actually spending the time with my family, my loved ones, not just helping those patients live longer, helping patients and their families, but what about my family? And so for me, spreading love at Kite is a greater focus on loving our employees and showing them recognition, showing them appreciation, developing them not just through promotions, but developing them not just at work, but in their personal, what do they want to develop personally, socially, that we can help them with. So for me, that's the next thing to double down on, is love for our employees.
Any final word of wisdom, Christi, for healthcare leaders around the world?
The biggest ones I've talked about is, I know you won't let success go to your head, but don't let failure go to your heart. I've also talked a little bit about, realizing that things are a point in time, and knowing through my experience that sometimes I stayed in places or stayed in jobs or stayed personally around people that you felt like you needed to, you had to, you were scared to take a risk. That's probably the biggest second thing I'd say is, in my journey, actually making the decision to not stay and follow a different path has probably led to more success than having stayed and trying to work through things. I'm not saying quit, but I'm saying sometimes there's another path. So for example, the saddest story for me when I left my job at Novartis was having the announcement go out that I was leaving my job to care for my sister, and my LinkedIn box exploded over the course of the next 3-4 weeks from then. And it was sad because most of those emails were people who did not make that choice, who worked instead of taking care of a loved one, or who didn't move closer to be next to a loved one, or spend enough time with a loved one before they died, and that time was gone. It was extremely heartbreaking. So for me, it was a motivation for me after my sister died to come back, to show people that you can leave the highest level job, and you don't know what's going to happen, but it's okay if you prioritize your loved ones, because you will find something else. To me, I ended up finding the job that fulfilled in me and helped me grieve the loss of my sister by helping others survive. And I didn't know what it was going to be, but if I'm any example, follow your heart, follow your loved ones, make those choices, and it will be okay. So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much, Christi. You're such an inspiration and a real example for so many leaders around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naji, and thank you for this podcast and for creating this for everyone. It's really exciting and a really great tool that I will pass along.
Thank you all for listening to Spread Love in Organizations podcast. Follow us on LinkedIn and social media. Subscribe on your preferred podcast platform and connect with us on SpreadLoveIO.com. Most importantly, spread love in your organizations and spread the word around you to inspire others and amplify this movement our word so desperately.